Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 3, episode 7. Time just goes by so fast. I'm not quite sure how you're feeling right now about how quickly 2023 seems to be just flying by us. And I guess it's good and it's bad in its own ways. It just a bit of a reflecting point that I've had so far this year. And it just seems like for some funny reason, maybe it's because of the lockdowns that happened the last couple of years. It seems like 2022 and 2023, they're flying by so much quicker for some reason. Maybe it's just because it was a lot slower when lockdowns were happening. Anyways, I digress. Today, I wanted to bring everybody into a very important topic and fundamental, if you will, if not monumental, when it comes to digging down into the core of financial education. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people have actually asked me, well, then if investing is only a part of financial education, then what exactly is financial education? Well, financial education, in my opinion, goes way beyond investing. First thing first, I know this is a word that a lot of us don't really like. It feels like going to the dentist and get your teeth drilled. However, the B word is definitely front and center when it comes to financial education, and that word is a budget. Budget is not the most fun thing for most of us. However, I think it comes from perhaps our old school thoughts about what budget is, because budget by definition just feels that it makes you feel very constrained. It makes you feel a little suffocated even sometimes. However, it doesn't have to be that, because budgeting can basically mean, for many of us these days, leveraging or using our resources efficiently and effectively. And that's how I look at it these days. And again, it didn't always happen that way, because my background is I was born and raised in Asia and born and raised in Taiwan. And so when I actually moved to Canada, what happened was I wasn't allowed to work legally at all. And so my parents had to work really hard to continue to support me as an international student so that I can live here and feed myself and have proper transportation, have proper clothing, shelter, and also being able to afford school. And it wasn't the cheapest thing at all as an international student. However, they literally worked really hard so that they could have the money and the funds to allow me to do that, so that I could create a better future for myself. And so with that said, though, where I'm going with this is the fact that I've had to learn how to budget really well. And I think the funny thing is, once I got to North America, I realized, for example, school projects in high school during, let's say, Halloween, or any sort of if the kids are actually taking drama lessons, or whatever course it may be, I realize it's very similar to the fact that if your teacher says, okay, you know what, for your costume for this class or for this play that we're going to be doing, you have $20 budget to get your entire costume done. Or again, if you're working on the set, you have $100 to build a set. Then that, I think a lot of the times it just feels like that. We feel constrained. However, through that, we also learn different skills. We learn how to really manage our funds effectively, and so that we can achieve the end goal that we still want to achieve. And so for me, because I understand that I didn't come from a background where there's unlimited resources that I could draw from. So what I had to end up doing was, because I went to a trimester school. So every school year, there were 3 very solid semesters. And so at the beginning of every semester, actually at the end of every semester, I would have to forecast and budget for the next 4 months. And so for the next 4 months, I would have to budget for food, clothing, shelter, on top of tuition. And tuition was kind of a moving target because it was always going up anyway. So it is a moving target. And obviously books and some allowances. And those are basically the main categories. However, what ended up happening, well, what had to happen was that every 4 months, I would have to provide my parents with a certain set of amount that they would need to send to me And for the next 4 months, that's it. I gotta sink or swim within that budget to go to school and to continue to build a life and build some sort of a social life. And that's it. And so with that, it came with a lot of appreciation later on for me because I've learned to prioritize my expenses. And this is why even to this day, I always say that I'm more of a value-based spender now. So there are a lot of things that I like, but I don't really care to have or own. However, I love paying for experiences. And so anyways, coming back here though, like I said, what's included in financial education? First thing first is budgeting. Budgeting could simply mean the effective and efficient use of your money in this particular case. And obviously there's debt management and then there's investing. And so a lot of the times, the reason why I share my personal story, as little as it might be to some of you, is the fact that it's all these little mindsets and daily habits that you bring from your personal life into your life as potentially a professional investor that will really determine the ultimate path that you will walk down. I'm not saying that this will determine whether or not you're successful, because the funny thing is mindset can be changed, it can be evolved, it can be grown over time, just like your skills. Your skills, new skills can be learned, can be cultivated, can be developed over time. And this is why one of the sayings that I really, really enjoy is that you don't have to be great to start. However, you do have to start to be great. And this is why a lot of the times we always emphasize on taking action. And we say that action takers tend to get rewarded. And so you get rewarded with, again, it could be a monetary reward, it could be a growth reward, it could be something tangible, something intangible. So that's why I wanted to really touch on today's topic, which is what is asset management? And so with that said, though, asset management is so crucial in the whole piece when it comes to financial education, because the first thing that we all need to understand is what qualifies as an asset. And if you're like me, one of your earlier inspirations may have come from books and other literature, such as Rich Dad Poor Dad, for example. I learned very early on in my upbringing that our home is our greatest asset, is our biggest asset. And then when I read the book, like many of you, you're going, oh my goodness, this guy is saying our home, our principal residence is not our biggest asset. And then we go into learning the definition of asset versus liability. And to me, that clicked. However, emotionally, I will be completely honest, it took me quite a few years to actually get out of that mindset. And so what that means really is asset, by definition now, is something that puts money into your pocket every month. Or sometimes I would like to say it puts money into your pocket regularly. The reason why, though, I do believe that the monthly definition matters to a lot of us is simply because the fact that our life has now, financially speaking, gets so broken down into a monthly picture. For example, if you're not quite sure what I mean by that, is many of us, we pay rent on a monthly basis or pay mortgage payments on a monthly basis. Property taxes, insurance can be paid annually. However, to manage effectively, to make sure that we don't have a giant shortfall and having to get into debt to pay those necessary expenses, we do decide to pay them monthly. And in addition to that, car payments, I'm drawing a blank here, utility bills, your water bills, your gas bills, your electricities, and these days, maybe your Netflix, your internet connection, your television cable, if you still have TV, cell phone bills, internet, I think I may have already said that, super important these days. The point is, our entire life now has been broken down into such a monthly view that the definition of asset has also evolved into something that puts money into your pocket on a monthly basis. However, again, if you just park on a monthly basis, just for a little bit, it's something that puts money into your pocket. And so for many of us, this is also why I can see why a lot of people tend to say, oh, our home is our biggest asset, because without a time frame, it's very easy to say, well, you know what, 20, 30 years from now, I will wait for the big payday. And then that mindset gets translated into when somebody has the ability to purchase a second property or a third property. And that's when we say that that same mindset creates for an amateur buyer that think that they're real estate investors, or they're amateur investors, in my opinion, once again, is the fact that they are doing what we call buy, rent, and pray. Because in that particular case, what they're all doing is, logically speaking and emotionally speaking, most of us, because we live in our principal residence, primary residence, we do tend to take better care of it unless there's some sort of financial distress. However, when that mindset gets translated into a rental or what's supposed to be an income property, it doesn't always work, because the buy, rent, and pray portion basically states that you're praying that you will always get good tenants, tenants that may behave like you, who will always take care of the property well, so that the maintenance work is kept up. That's not always the case, first of all. Second of all, you are also hoping that they will constantly pay you on time, and that's also not always the case. And so it doesn't matter how nice your property is, it's inevitable that you will have some sort of turnover in a long period of time in that property. And last but not least, forget about the tenant portion. It also has everything to do with the asset itself. Or again, I'm not going to call it an asset right now because it's just a piece of property. Okay, it has a lot to do with the property itself, is that many of us are also praying that the property that we've managed to acquire gives us little to no issues. And this is why there's so much stigma about lining up at pre-sale centers to buy pre-construction, because by definition, pre-constructions are brand new properties, and brand new properties probably should create a lot less headaches, right? I don't think so. I'm going to challenge you on thinking about it. And some of you, if you've actually bought brand new properties, you probably already know what I mean. Give you a quick example. There have been brand new properties that I bought over the last 20 years at this point. First thing first, it was a pre-construction condo, which was my principal residence in Vancouver, BC, or Burnaby, BC, to be more exact. Within the first 2 years, my condo fees went up 3 times. Why? Because all of a sudden, as the residents started to move in to take occupancy, the buildings are getting used now on a daily basis. All the deficiencies started to show up. And if that's not enough, the house that I'm currently living in, I remember 2 weeks after we took possession, because they weren't able, the builder weren't able, they weren't. See, again, English is not my first language, so forgive me sometimes. Because the builder was not able to complete the final touches on our master ensuite shower, so they had to get it done 2 weeks after. And really, that final touch was making sure that the glass door is added in properly. And so finally, when the door was installed and I'm in there super happy, taking my first shower in my ensuite, and then all of a sudden it created this giant waterfall into the kitchen below and all the way to the basement. And so turned out the plumbers did not actually connect the pipes. And meanwhile, they already sealed everything up, making it look like it was a completely finished project on the outside. And so that's the thing. I mean, these are just a couple of my personal experiences. Obviously, we've run into different situations with renovation work that wasn't done completely yet, that wasn't done completely either. However, what I'm really alluding to is the fact that so many of us, there is that level of gambling, either that excites you or whatever the case may be. I just want to really level with everybody. It's the fact that buy, rent, and pray does not work. That is not a strategy. That is just something that the amateurs are always hoping for. And so coming back to what we were talking about is really understanding asset versus liability. So asset, if the asset is something that puts you money into your pocket, either on a monthly basis or on a regular basis, then the flip side of that is a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket on a regular basis. And I also want to be very clear, because when it takes money out of your pocket, a lot of the times we will call it investment. And remember, as an investor, if it's an investment, what that also means is you should be able to, based on the principle of taking calculated risks, be able to somewhat forecast a return. Okay, so then you can actually call it an investment, because as investors, we focus a lot on return on investment. However, if that money is just going out of your bank account, going out of your pocket, then really it basically defines whatever it is taking the money out of your pocket and bank account as a liability. And let's go back to the concept of our principal residence. It is by far most of our biggest liabilities, because it's also quite emotional for many of us. Now, with that said, though, the whole point of really kind of stretching that out not only is to make sure that you do understand the concept of what an asset is, we're going to take it to the next level. Okay, I'm going to challenge every single one of you to answer this question right now. What do you think your biggest asset in life is? What do you think your biggest asset in life is? Let's remember the definition now, okay? The definition of an asset is something that puts money into your pocket on a monthly basis or on a regular basis. And so what is your biggest or greatest asset in life? And if your answer is anything but yourself, then we've got a long way to go. So stick with me, continue to watch my Daily Dose with Tim. I'm really hoping to make you see that over time, because even as you are saying you want to learn the how-to of real estate investing, you want to become a better real estate investor if you've already started, you want to become the most financially educated person that you know in your circle, you got to continue. And again, remember, all of those sentences started with you. You want to do something, you want to do something, and you want to accomplish something. Okay. So again, your greatest asset and your greatest income generating asset in life and for life is you. And that is the 6 inches between your 2 ears. So continue to elevate your own financial literacy and improve your financial education at all turns. And so with that said, though, coming back here, understanding asset and liability is the first thing. The second thing here is understand, okay? I'm going to write this down. Asset versus liability. And then the second thing is understand income versus expenses. Okay, understand income versus expenses. And this is why there is one graph that I love so much when I first started getting financially educated, which I'm so eager to share with you tomorrow or in the next episode, because I'm going to go way over time if I include that in today's episode. And so income, if you think about it this way, needs to be generated by asset. And so what can constitute as assets? How many pieces of assets do you need to acquire to be financially free, financially confident, financially independent, financially secure, financially unbreakable, despite what comes at you, okay? And so expenses, there are a lot of expenses, both in life and in business and investing, that are inevitable. And so the next thing here is really what I would encourage everybody to look at, because since we're talking about the fact that budget is definitely a part of the grand scope of financial education, take a look currently, do a quick audit. And if you want a template, make sure you reach out to me, DM me. I know a lot of you guys have already been doing that. You're asking questions and you're challenging me, and I love that. So do a quick audit. And if you need a template, reach out to me and I will share a template with you. Okay. And this is really the simplified version of it all. And honestly, this was business 101 when I was going to university as an 18-year-old. So you make your money, you spend your money. At the end of the day, are you in the positive or the negative? Typically speaking, this is on the green side, as we call it, and this is on the red side. And then we go into examining every single element and component and line items, as accountants will call them, that contributes to the final result. Because this is super important when you understand it on a personal level, because how you do anything is how you do everything. We want to make sure, I want to make sure that this little exercise is actually performed and it's done and it's reviewed and updated as regularly as possible. I remember doing this when I first started learning financial education and really started learning how to invest and actually executing on my education and the strategies that I've learned. I was updating that sheet every time a deal was done, and so that I could take a look at how my financial statement was changing, simply because the fact that the four different major components in a financial statement are right here. Okay. And that's why I said we will go into that in the next episode, which is this: asset, liability, income, and expenses. However, for many of us, we want to make sure that we take a look at our day-to-day expenses and revenue stream. For most of us, we don't really have day-to-day income streams. However, that was actually, fun side note, one of my goals when I first became an investor, because I wanted to, instead of kind of like having a job in the past, I was getting paid bi-weekly. So instead of having 2 paychecks on a monthly basis, I wanted to make sure that every single day of the month, there is money coming in. So by definition, you want to create at least 30 or 31 income streams for yourself. And so if you think about it, when that happens, how happy and how secure and how confident will you be with your entire financial situation? And so with that said, I want to take this quick opportunity, because I know some of you that are watching are just thinking about getting financially educated, getting started in real estate investing, or maybe you're not even sure if real estate investing is for you. However, some of you that are watching, you have been investing in real estate for a few years now, and all of a sudden, this right now, the times that we're going through, it's proving to be one of the hardest patches that we've experienced so far. And even for myself, I will say that this is probably one of the harder patches, not the hardest by far. However, this is definitely one of the harder patches that I've also personally experienced, in the sense that property values have elevated quite significantly over the last couple of years. Even though, yes, in some markets, in many markets, values are dropping. However, because of interest rate, and that is such a huge component when it comes to calculating our deals and doing our deal analysis, but because of cost of borrowing has gone up so much, we have not seen this kind of rate in 17 years as Canadians. And North Americans, in the last 40 years, we have not seen inflation like what we've witnessed in the last 8 months alone. So all these economic drivers and factors and lending rules and changes, it has made it feel like it's very difficult. And so tomorrow evening, one of the trainers and mentors from the Trust Your Talent Academy team, Brooke, she is running a seminar, and that is free of charge. So feel free to get yourself registered. I will share that link in the comments section. She is going to walk everybody through how to find opportunities in distress scenarios like this. So I highly, highly encourage to take the time and join her during that seminar. And once again, this weekend, we got a lot of things happening as well. So make sure you check out that Eventbrite link below. And thank you for your participation, your encouragement, your questions, your challenges, your comments, your likes and shares. Please make sure you share this with whoever you think can benefit from elevating their financial education. With that said, have a great day, everyone, and live well.